Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, is once again at a critical crossroads. The M23 rebel group's recent takeover of Goma, a key city in the eastern part of the country, has intensified an already volatile situation, with reports of heavy fighting, mass displacement, and rising tensions between regional players. The crisis in the DRC is deepening, leaving millions at risk. For decades, conflict in the DRC has been fueled by ethnic tensions, control over vast natural resources, and the involvement of external actors. The humanitarian toll is staggering: millions displaced, thousands killed, and a worsening humanitarian crisis.
So as the situation escalates, the question remains, where does the DRC go from here? How will this conflict shape the future of Central Africa? And what roles should the international community play? Well, joining us now to have a little bit of deliberation on this is Lionel Nditabiriye, a political analyst specializing in African conflicts and geopolitics. You are welcome. Thank you very much, Lionel, for joining us. Let's start by asking first of the origins of the conflict in the DRC, how it involves the neighboring countries, and what elements are involved in this conflict.
What elements you mean actors?
Exactly.
I think there are many actors here in this conflict. We have a SADC mission, which is comprised of 3 countries. We've had European mercenaries that were recruited by the government of Congo. We have a plethora of militias, local militias, which were all reorganized. They were first fighting the government, and now they are on the side of the government to fight what they call a foreign invader, which is portrayed, which is how they portray the M23. We have the Rwandan genocidal group, the FDLR, which has been there for the last 3 decades and which has been left to, roam and rampage by the government of Congo and by MONUSCO. We have then the M23 movement. We have had reports that maybe Rwanda may be involved. I've seen no evidence of that, but I wouldn't be surprised because Rwanda has a security interest in Congo in fighting against that genocidal group, which is now supported by the government of Congo. So if in a tit-for-tat kind of a response, Rwanda would support the M23, I wouldn't be surprised. We have had also reports that Uganda may be implicated. People might remember that this M23 movement, the commanders that lead it, left Uganda in 2017. They were cantoned there, and after the fight in 2013, when they were defeated, they went to Uganda, and they left Uganda in 2017, returned to Congo, and were in a remote area until the fighting resumed in 2021. And I'm talking about local actors, but there are certainly other actors. We have seen how Western powers have been very implicated in this, and also Middle Eastern powers who have mining interests in that region.
And that exactly is it now. What are the interests? What exactly are they squabbling over? What is the substance? Why is Goma such a nucleus, a meeting point for all of these interested bodies?
I have been asking myself the same question. The war resumed in 2021, and since then, the condemnation have been very, I wouldn't say as loud as now, but every time Goma is taken, we see a lot of reactions, and I think Goma is central to something that we should find out soon if we do some investigative journalism. but it has to be central to a trade that is now disrupted with the takeover of Goma by the rebels. And you hear a lot of people asking the rebels to open up the airport because that's where the trade takes place, to open up the airport. And they say it's for humanitarian reasons, but I doubt it is.
You talked about all of the actors, right, which is the M23 rebels, the RSF is one hand, there's also South Africa as well, and the SADC. There's also been calls for ceasefire. But I also do have to bring in the United Nations and the the African Union as well. They have issued statements confirming, condemning the violence, and they've asked for ceasefire, saying that the humanitarian situation there is dire. Do you think international bodies have really done enough to quell the crisis? And I mean, you just rightfully put, why Goma every single time? What then, have they done enough in trying to quell the crisis for the sake of the people?
I don't know for other places where the conflict is taking place right now towards South Kivu, but what I've seen in images in Goma is that no, the humanitarian crisis is not escalating. Rather, we have thousands and thousands of displaced people who were in camps all around Goma. They returned to their villages. So when we hear, statements that humanitarian crisis is deteriorating, maybe it is in zones, in places where conflict continues, but not in Goma. In Goma, things are returning to normal. And when you talk to people, they say they've had enough of these militias, particularly the militias, because these are civilians which were armed by the government, and they were very, very violent. They were poorly paid, and they were harassing the population, stealing from them, taking their phones, and sometimes we hear even horrific tales of rape. So as far as I'm concerned, and for people who are closer to the border with Goma, we see images, we see testimonies from our close friends who say Goma is now very calm, but we still have some security situation with hundreds of fighters, pro-government fighters who are trapped in the airport in MONUSCO bases, and we don't know how that can come under control. But they are surrounded by the M23. I guess things will be resolved. I would like to add something else that the UN isn't saying, and these claims are specifically coming from MONUSCO. I wouldn't be surprised, because this is a more than 3 decades mission, UN mission. There are jobs at stake here if MONUSCO is sent away. So these people, I think they have an interest in painting the situation in the worst light possible so that they can justify the funding they've been receiving, justify that the mission should be continued, even though it has completely failed to resolve this crisis.
Well, we want to say thank you so much for taking out the time, Lionel, to join us today, just to give a bit of insight in the conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And again, at the end of the day, it's all about, geopolitics, and it's a global issue or a regional issue, a crisis for the entirety of the continent, because we really do want peace. Well, Lionel, many thanks for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Oh, that's very interesting. I really wish that we had plenty of time, because I wanted to get into the fact that there's actually one element here, the use of the word element, that is causing all of this.
Copper.
And that's, no, it's not copper, it's
Natural resources?
coltan.